What's going on, guys? This is Juan with Team PPG XFOE, bringing you back another deck profile video. Today I'm going to be showcasing the deck that I piloted this past weekend during the regional. This deck ended up getting me a top 32. As you can see, that's obviously King Vegeta, one of the best decks in the meta right now. I think that this deck everybody's pretty much familiar with at this point. We've seen it everywhere. We've seen it top different events. I believe it won the previous regional. I want to say Robert ended up getting first with it. So let's just get into the deck. King Vegeta, the leader itself, when you place leader on your leader area, you can automatically place the field, which we'll get into that in a minute. Aside from that, when the card attacks, looks the top 5 cards from the top of your deck and add them on a red Saiyan. It's a pretty good mechanic, obviously, because you can just pretty much, as soon as you attack, you can start stockpiling your super combos, or you can add whatever piece you may be missing for your combos and whatnot. The other ability it has, you have the ability to awaken as soon as your opponent is at 4 life, which is pretty good. It just allows you, because obviously the deck you will do that by the deck's mechanic by itself. It allows you to extend your plays. It allows you to, do other things that other decks you wouldn't be able to do with other decks, which we'll get into in a minute as well. When he is awakened, he reduces the combo cost of all the little young invader guys, because they're all cost 1 for combo. He also draws once. He loses the ability to look at top 5. So it's just a regular draw at that point. And then once you minus something, your leader once per turn, you can also minus 10k once per turn. Now keep in mind that that's obviously on the first minus. It's not like you can hold it or do anything like that. You have to do, as soon as you minus something, you have to do it, otherwise you lose it. Still a pretty useful ability, especially when you have so many tools that causes the minus and you're able to defend yourself. Aside from that, like we mentioned, we play the field obviously. If your leader card is a King Vegeta card at the start of your opponent's turn, play it to 1 red same card with 500 power from your deck to your opponent's battle area. And shuffle your deck if you played a card. You can play battle cards that are in red Saiyan cards for the turn. So obviously the purpose of that is to play the little guys on your opponent's field. The little guys, once you play them, it's going to make your opponent crit a life and draw a card. Aside from the Vegeta, which has another ability, in which once the Vegeta is on your opponent's side and you attack for the first attack, whatever card you're attacking is going to lose 5k, which becomes pretty useful sometimes. Well, not sometimes, most of the time. We'll get into that in a minute. The other ability that the field has is you can add up to 1 card for your life and then play one of the little guys on your side, rested on your side of the field. It just allows you for overextending plays. It allows you to, if you need to play 1 switching gears and then you play one of the crit guy or vice versa, whatever case may be, it just allows you to continue doing your things and have more resources to be able to, bring those guys into the field. The last ability the field has is basically a built-in removal. You pay 1 and you KO something that's 5k or less. Something loses 5k. So the thing is, like, if somebody plays Black Mass Saiyan or something like that, that's the idea behind it. One of those silver bullets, you're able to get rid of them by paying 1 red energy. Moving into the little guys, like we were saying before, the Vegeta, when he's on your opponent's field, when a card is attacked, the attack card loses 5k. It's pretty useful, especially if you go, per se, your opponent goes first, and you end up playing this guy on your opponent's side of the field, and then during your turn, you activate your field's ability, play one of these guys, the Raditz per se on your side of the field, and end up playing the crit guy, and then once you swing, the Vegeta triggers, so your opponent at that point is defending a 19k with a 5k leader. It's either they take crit, or they spend a bunch of resources from their hand, which is pretty good. The Raditz doesn't do anything realistically, but it's more of you can play more than 1 because Vegeta has unique. Raditz, you can just spam it. Not necessarily like you're going to do it like that, but it's always good to have. We only play 3 and 3. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I might go down 1, I might not, because in some games I felt like I had too many. In some games I felt like I didn't have enough. So that might be the right number. Maybe 5 is the right number. We're still messing with it. Obviously, with the ban list coming live, we're going to be tweaking the ratios for many things in the deck. Aside from that, we also play, obviously, the package, the critical guy. Critical guy, you pay 1, you choose one of the little guys, send it to the bottom, you just play it from your hand. He has unique. Once he comes into the field, you look at top 5 for a Red Saiyan. Again, just like the Awakened Leader side, it's a pretty useful skill, as you can add your super combos, you can add your switching gears, you can add your Crown of Retribution, whatever piece you may need in order to do your combos or do some type of play. It's always useful. It's always good for deck cycling and seeing the pieces that you need. We also play, obviously, switching gears, which is arguably the MVP of the deck. You can play for free. You send one of the little guys, you can play him for free from your hand. You send another card from your hand to the bottom and draw 2 cards. Now, something that people may not know, and I actually learned this myself the day of the event. I was talking to somebody, and I was talking to Robert, and the ability to play this game, to send a little guy to the bottom, is not a cost, which means you can just simply reveal it and say attempt to play. If your opponent plays a counter or try to do something, you say I'm not playing anything. And at that point, you're not triggering the activate main, because the activate main, as you can see, says when you play it. Since you didn't play it, the activate main didn't trigger, and you'd be able to play it again. I actually found that out. I didn't know that myself. So that became pretty useful during the games this past Saturday. But again, the simple fact that you can play this guy for free, basically, is just so useful. It's a 10k. When you play it early, if your opponent's leader is not awakened, it's just a little pressure. And then this is one of the ways in which you go to your Heartfelt play as well. And we'll get into that in a minute. For the Unison, we play Piccolo Jr., Descendant of the King. This Unison is just amazing. It does everything. When your opponent activates counter skill, you can kill at 50k or less. It's not once per turn, which makes it busted in my opinion. It's a +1 draw card Unison. I didn't really activate the -2. I didn't have the need to, since this deck is a little bit more aggressive. And even if your opponent has like a bunch of battle cards, you don't really care. You just kind of go through it just for the kill. Especially since you're going to put your opponent at 4 life no matter what, just because of the little guys doing the crit. So the second ability didn't really matter. I mean, if you ever need to use it, it's obviously there, but it's not really that relevant with this deck. For the SCR, we went with Heron's Lineage, just because I was debating between this and Kai. Kai obviously being at 40k, you can combine with a Champa for a double strike, you can play for 1 energy, whatever the case may be, clear the board, but again, it's the same principle as the second ability on this guy. You don't really need to clear board or anything like that, you kind of go through it. Yeah, the 40k is great or whatnot, but I just felt like in most cases, this will come in handy more than the Kai, if anything. Just because, let's say, if they had a blocker that would prevent you from, trying to killing them or whatever the case may be, or if they had another battle card that you can just steal for an extra attack, or whatever the case may be, you can just do that. 2 Crown of Retribution. Crown of Retribution for those grindy blue matches that have a bunch of negates, or Voker, or, Baby that you expect to see, or anything like that. If your opponent has 2 energy up, you just play it, look at your hand, look at your opponent's hand, and, get rid of a 20k battle card or whatnot. It's useful in more than one way, not only because you get rid of the card, because that's obviously great, but it also gives you information. You can see what your opponent's hand's looking like, what they have, and that, according to what they have, you can, think how you're going to play or plan your plays out, basically. We play 3 Freeze's Death Ball. ISRs are just good in general, any deck, realistically. In this case specifically, it just works very well with the deck. I honestly was debating whether to play it at 4. I didn't have a problem seeing the card while I was playing, but I do believe that once the new ban list take effect, we're going to go ahead and bump that to 4, because that will be the right play, just so that you have more access to the card. The card is a plus 15k on whatever you're attacking, or whatever you choose to give it to, and minus 10 on whatever you choose to give it to, right? So it's basically 25, you could say, in a way, if you do it to the attacking card and defending card. But the point to this, it allows your Heartfelt play. Because at that point, what you would do is, let's say you go ahead and play a switching gears, swing with switching gears, whatever happens, then you swing with your leader. Once you swing with your leader, you can go ahead and freeze his Death Ball, give the 15k to the switching gear so it becomes a 25, minus the leader that you're attacking, a 10. So now you're swinging, per se, 10 to 0 if they're unawakened. Then at that point, you're going to declare Awaken, and once you declare Awaken, you can kill this guy and or send this guy to the draw rather, and play your Heartfelt Plea. And then Awaken, now you're attacking 15k to a 0 if they're unawakened, or to a 5 if they are awakened. They have to defend that. They have the offering that comes into play, which we'll get into that in a minute. So it just allows you to do many things. It's just a really good card with the game, with the deck. King Vegeta Imposing Presence. If the deck is more built, is more aggro, I didn't really want to include that many negates, but this card is obviously something that you must have, especially when it comes to, like, per se, the mirror match, or, you know, another aggro deck. Call it Majin Vegeta, call it, you know, Bardock, which I didn't really honestly expect to see, but regardless, you never know. Vegex, stuff like that. It'll just allow you to stop some turns or survive, you may say, so you can kill in the crackback. This card, obviously, if your leader is a moderate Saiyan, you may choose the attacking card, ignoring Barrier, it gets minus 10k for the turn. Your opponent can attack with cards for the rest of the turn, unless they get minus 5k on that card. So that, combined with the leader's ability, you can get rid of cards, you can, you know, ensure that you have more combo power, or that you'll survive because you'll have more power than your opponent, because otherwise they're going to have to spend more resources from their hand in order to be able to get through that attack. And obviously you can activate this card by, when you're at 3 life, by discarding 1 card from your hand. You already have a bunch of cards in hand, because normally when you get to 3 life, you know, if you've awakened, or you've done so many things with the switching gears, or the critical guy where you're plussing, looking at top 5, adding a card, you're looking at top 5, adding a card. Even if you're awakened, just swinging and drawing. And then if you did if your opponent picked the offering, which 95% of the time they just pick you to draw, because otherwise they're just going to go down to 3 life, and then him being a triple striker obviously becomes pretty rough. So you're going to have a lot of cards in hand. So with that being said, you know, you can afford to obviously discard the card, and still outcombo your opponent, and it becomes pretty rough for them to have to spend cards just for a single attack to get through. So this card's pretty good overall. We played 2 of the Son Goku Legend Personified. So this card, I don't know how I felt about it at 2. I don't think I needed it. I don't think I've ever used it for the Heartfelt play. This guy obviously with Bond 3. If your opponent has 3 more energy, this card gets it becomes a 25 for the next main phase. Like I said, I don't think I ever used it for the Heartfelt play. If anything, I used it more as aggression, as just a 25 beater that was swinging on lead. So I don't know how I feel about him being at 2. Maybe, like I said, with the new format, or with the new ban list, we'll keep it at 2. I may bump it down to 1. I don't know yet. I'm still, you know, messing with it, and we'll have to see. 2 Wolfang Fist. Again, this card, same principle as the other, as the Imposing Presence. I didn't really want negates, but sometimes they're necessary. In this case, per se, you know, obviously being able to activate this card while you have the unison and you're tapped out, and ignoring Barrier, it's pretty good. It allows you to stop so many, you know, threats, you may say, that may come your way. I would have to say the one thing that I would probably regret during this past weekend tournament, and, well, not probably, I did regret it, was not playing Violent Race. So I'm thinking that I should have changed this and just add Violent Race instead, because I ended up actually in that tournament I went 4-0 for the first 4 rounds. Round 5, I faced Daehan, who was playing Dark Broly, and I had a hard time. Let's just say that. I did not have Violent Race, and did not see that many of these guys. So it got to a point where I just couldn't handle the 30Ks coming through, obviously, with Dark Broly spamming, you know, those big guys. But, so that was one thing that I definitely regretted. I still don't think necessarily that for a best of 3 format I would main a Violent Race. I would side it if anything, just because I like more, you know, the no negates, aggro type of kill you turn 2, turn 3 build. It's definitely a card that I would side. On a best of 1, it's definitely a card that now I know I would have on the main. That was a mistake that I totally made there. Super combo, we play the Raditz Saiyan Youth, just because obviously you can grab it with your leader, you can grab it with the critical Vegeta, and then it allows you to cycle through the deck. Sometimes you have cards that you don't need, because this guy has unique. You can only have 1 at a time, obviously, so you may send it to the bottom, as you may have already 1 on the field. You may have cards in your hand that are relevant. Let's say you're tapped out, or whatever case may be. You can't play this anymore, or or you have more than one of the realms in hand, or you have one of the little guys in hand that you always want to have in your deck, so that way you can trigger the field. It allows you to just put it at the bottom, and draw 2 fresh new cards. So that definitely works. King Pickle, the new ruler. This card is amazing. Obviously, not much explanation there. It's one of the cards that's been seeing a lot of play lately. Obviously, you can play it for free unless you have 3 markers on your unison. It becomes the 20k double strike that cannot be blocked. So it's just adding more aggression to the deck. It's just adding, that extra push to be able to go for the kill. We played Champa too. So I'm torn in between the amount of Champas, just because I initially had it at 1, and I felt like I needed another one, just because some instances I wanted to see it and I didn't. And then when I played it at 2, I felt like it was too much. So I don't know whether the right number is 1 or 2 yet. I'm still messing with it, kind of seeing. I think that I will leave it at 2, especially with the changes that are coming. But we'll have to see, because there are other cards that I would like to bump up as well. So we'll have to see. Another card that I would like to bump up would be like the Yamcha. Yamcha play it at 2, the counter skill Yamcha, counterplay Yamcha. I didn't really need it. I didn't really use it. I maybe used it once during this weekend. The card's pretty good, especially with this deck. I just was never put in a position where, I had the need to play this card. I think that the only time I played it, I played a Vegex player, and I used it obviously when he spammed the field. Aside from that, I don't think I used it. Most of the time I charged it if I saw it, or sent it to the bottom, or maybe combo it. It just depended on, when I saw it. But it's definitely, I can totally see it being used, depending on the matchups that you're running. I didn't run into any Mecha Freezes, surprisingly. My matchups were, let me see, I want to say I did 2 Invokers for sure. 2 Invokers, 1 Mirror Match, Dark Broly, obviously. I can't remember the other ones. The Vegex, I can't remember the other ones, but it wasn't, there weren't any decks in which I really, really needed, realistically. So maybe that's the reason why I'm thinking that way. But it's definitely a good card to have. We played 3 of the Vegeta at full power. I think, I think I only used this card once as well, just because I was put in a situation where I needed to. I had no other options, just because I didn't see, certain plays. I couldn't go into the heartfelt plea. I think I did this against the Vegex player as well, which unfortunately he ended up, using Heron's lineage and this guy. But what can we do about it? I had to go for it at that point. But 3, I might bump it down to 2 because it wasn't that useful necessarily. But at the same time, it's always good to have just in case. And yeah, he saw Heron's lineage. I didn't, so it didn't work out in my favor at that point. So I may bump down to 2 and kind of try it out. I don't know. We'll see. Heartfelt Plea at 3. Everybody knows what this card does by now. Obviously, it's getting limited to 1, so we'll have to make some adjustments. This card is great, obviously, in this deck, especially when you can do that play that I mentioned earlier with the Death Ball and then this guy into the Heartfelt Plea, or sometimes you can just go with this guy, bump it to 25, swing, and then after swing with something else or whatever, then awaken, kill this, or send this guy to the draw, play this guy, do the offering. Your opponent's going to be already at 4 life, so chances are they're going to let you draw. There's actually some players who took the damage, or took the crit. I was very surprised, but hey, to each their own. And at that point, you just put him at 3 life, and it's just because he's a triple strike, obviously. You can go for a game, depending on the situation, depending on whatever they have in the hand, or whatever may happen. So this card's pretty good. That's why it's limited to 1 now, or will be, rather. Not much explanation there. Lastly, we played 3 of the Fighting Against Fate Bardock. For this guy, we want to... Looks like somebody's calling here. For this guy, speaking of the teammates, there's Robert Rizzi. I'll call you back, brother. Sorry, guys. For this guy, we went ahead and played at 3. I think 3 is the right number. I actually, speaking of Robert, I was arguing with him that he played it at 4. I think that's way too many. I saw it way too many times in my hand, even at 3. 2 was pretty good. You know, this guy's just a 3. You don't have to pay energy to overwhelm it. 25k dual attack, which is huge. You can combine this with Champa. You can combine this with, you know, Death Ball or super combos. Your hand per game or whatever case may be, obviously, depending on the situation. So that card is just amazing. Like I said, this is the Comic Top 32. I ended up 4-0. Ended up losing my 3 matches after, I believe, or 4-0. Lost the 5th round against Dayhan. Something like that. At a certain point, I was going for top 16, but losing those last matches dropped me down to top 32. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. But I think that we'll make some tweaks to the deck, and then we'll go the next time with the new ban list. I still think that this deck is pretty threatening. It's going to be one of the best deck in the meta, so that's going to be pretty good. Alright guys, that's pretty much the deck profile. I'll catch you guys on the next one.